She woke up in a hospital bed, 7 months pregnant, alone. The monitors beeped. Beep, beep, beep. Her baby was alive. She was alive. Barely. The seizure had almost killed them both. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the text message from her mother-in-law, the one that said, "Preston told me you were being dramatic about morning sickness." Dramatic. While Grace lay dying on a hospital floor, her millionaire husband told people she was being dramatic. Where was he during those 6 hours? The 6 hours doctors tried to reach him? The 6 hours his phone went straight to voicemail? The 6 hours his pregnant wife fought for her life? He was with her, his mistress, choosing her, while his wife seized, while his baby almost died, while everything fell apart. But Grace's father saw everything. William Morrison, retired federal judge, 35 years on the bench, a man who knew exactly how to make someone pay for their crimes. And Preston Hartwell was about to learn something important, something crucial, something that would cost him everything. Never underestimate a woman's father, especially when that father knows how to use the law like a weapon. This is the story of betrayal, of justice, of a father's revenge that shocked everyone. And it starts with a seizure, a missing husband, and a reckoning that no one saw coming. Stay with me, because what happens next will leave you speechless. The monitors beeped in steady rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. Grace Hartwell opened her eyes to white ceiling tiles and antiseptic smell. Where was she? The beeping continued. Steady, mechanical, not her alarm clock, not her phone, something else, something medical. Grace tried to move her head. Pain shot through her skull. Sharp, immediate. She gasped. "Mrs. Hartwell?" A voice, female, gentle. "Mrs. Hartwell, can you hear me?" Grace blinked. The ceiling tiles came into focus. One had a water stain, brown edges, like a coffee ring. She stared at it, tried to understand. "Mrs. Hartwell, I'm Julie. I'm your nurse. You're in the hospital. You're safe." Hospital. The word landed in Grace's mind like a stone in water, ripples spreading outward. Hospital. Why was she in a hospital? She became aware of sensations. An IV in her left arm. Cold. The needle site ached. Something strapped around her swollen belly. Tight. Monitoring. Her baby. Oh God. Her baby. Grace's hand flew to her stomach. 7 months pregnant. 7 months and 2 weeks. The baby kicked. Strong kicks. Relief flooded through her. The baby? Grace's voice came out raspy, raw, like she'd been screaming. The baby is fine. Nurse Julie appeared in Grace's field of vision, round face, kind eyes, scrubs with cartoon elephants. Strong heartbeat, moving well. The baby is perfectly fine. Then why am I here? Julie adjusted something on the IV pole. The bag of fluid swayed, clear liquid catching fluorescent light. "You had a seizure, Mrs. Hartwell, at home. Your neighbor found you on your kitchen floor." She called 911. Seizure. Grace tried to remember. Morning. She'd been making breakfast. Oatmeal. She'd been craving oatmeal with brown sugar and cinnamon. She'd stood at the stove, stirring, the spoon going round and round. Then nothing. Just nothing. And now this. Hospital. Beeping. White ceiling tiles with water stains. "What time is it?" Grace asked. "Almost 9 in the morning. Friday morning." Friday morning. Grace had collapsed Thursday. Thursday morning. She'd been making breakfast Thursday morning. That meant she'd been unconscious for almost 24 hours. "We need to examine you." A new voice. Dr. Rebecca Walsh entered the room. Grace's obstetrician. Familiar face, finally someone familiar. "Grace, how are you feeling?" "Confused, my head hurts." "That's normal after a seizure." Dr. Walsh moved to the bedside, pulled out a small flashlight. "Look at me. I need to check your pupils." The light was too bright. Grace winced. Dr. Walsh clicked the flashlight off, made notes on a tablet. "You had an eclamptic seizure," Dr. Walsh said. "Your blood pressure spiked dangerously high, 200 over 130. That level can cause stroke, brain damage, even death. You're very lucky your neighbor heard the noise and called for help." Grace touched her belly again. The baby moved, rolling, pressing against her ribs. The baby is really okay? The baby is fine, but you nearly died, Grace. Another 30 minutes without treatment and we would have been having a very different conversation. Nearly died. The words hung in the air. Beep, beep, beep. The monitors kept their steady rhythm. Mechanical heartbeat. Proof of life. We've been trying to reach your husband for 6 hours, Dr. Walsh said. His phone goes straight to voicemail. Do you have another number for Preston? 6 hours. Grace stared at the water-stained ceiling tile. 6 hours. Preston's phone went straight to voicemail for 6 hours, while she lay in a hospital bed, while doctors tried to contact him, while she nearly died. No, Grace said quietly. That's his only number. Dr. Walsh made another note, her lips pressed together. Thin line. Disapproval. What about family? Parents? Siblings? Someone who can stay with you? My parents are in Connecticut. My father is William Morrison. I can give you his number. The Judge Morrison? Dr. Walsh looked up. I'll call him myself. You need someone here, Grace. You're high risk now. This pregnancy requires monitoring. Bed rest. No stress. No stress. Grace almost laughed. Almost. But laughing might hurt her head more. Laughing might shatter something inside her that was already cracking. Nurse Julie brought a cup of apple juice, room temperature. The kind that comes in small plastic cups with peel-off foil tops. Grace sipped it. Tasted like cardboard. Everything tasted like nothing now. Like her taste buds had forgotten their function. I need to use the bathroom, Grace said. I'll help you. Julie set the juice aside. Slowly now. You might be dizzy. Standing hurt. Everything hurt. Grace's legs wobbled. The hospital gown hung loose. Too big, exposing her back to cold air. She shuffled toward the bathroom. 3 steps. 4. 5. Such a short distance. It felt like miles. The bathroom was small, sterile. A handrail bolted to the wall. Grace caught sight of herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman looking back. Pale skin, gray undertones, dark circles under her eyes. Purple, almost black. Her hair hung limp, greasy, matted on one side. Her lips were chapped, cracked, dry. She touched her face. The woman in the mirror touched back. Same motion, same woman. But Grace didn't know her. Who was this woman who nearly died alone? Who was this woman whose husband couldn't be reached for 6 hours? Who was this woman who made excuses and pretended and smiled when everything inside was screaming? Grace braced herself against the sink. The porcelain was cold, smooth, real. She focused on that. The cold, the smooth, the real. Back in bed, Grace reached for her phone, sat on the bedside table, screen dark. She picked it up. 17 missed calls, 14 from her mother, 3 from Natalie, none from Preston. She opened her messages. 1 new text from Claudia Hartwell. Preston's mother. The message read, "Is it true? Were you really in the hospital all night? Preston told me you were being dramatic about morning sickness. Call me when you can." Grace stared at the screen. Read it again. Then again. Preston told me you were being dramatic about morning sickness. Not, my wife nearly died. Not, my wife had a seizure. Not, my wife and baby are in danger. Just dramatic about morning sickness. Grace's hands began to shake. Not from the seizure, not from the medication. From something else. Something building inside her chest. Hot, tight, pressure. She did what she'd done 100 times before. Maybe 1,000 times, 3 times. Checked her phone. Lock screen, unlocked it. Checked messages. Lock screen, unlocked it. Checked again. Nothing changed. Preston still hadn't texted, still hadn't called, still hadn't come. The shaking got worse. Grace set the phone down, put her hands flat on the blanket, tried to breathe, in through her nose, out through her mouth the way her therapist had taught her, before she stopped going to therapy because Preston said she was being overdramatic. Preston said therapy was a waste of money. Preston said she just needed to relax. Lavender. The hospital sheets smelled like industrial lavender, like they were trying to cover up something dying, something rotting. Grace pulled the blanket higher. The fabric scratched, rough weave, not soft, not comforting, just functional. Her wedding ring felt tight. When did it get so tight? Had her finger swollen? Was it the pregnancy? Was it the seizure? Or had the ring always been this tight and she just hadn't noticed? The monitors kept beeping. Beep, beep, beep. Baby's heartbeat. Strong, steady. Her own heartbeat. Erratic. Jumping. Anxious. The door opened. Grace looked up. For a moment, just a moment, she hoped. But it was just Nurse Julie, coming to check vitals, to adjust the IV, to smile that kind smile that nurses perfect. The smile that says everything will be okay, even when it won't. Grace closed her eyes, listened to the beeping, felt the baby kick, touched her belly, whispered to the child inside. "It's just us," she said softly. "It's always been just us." The baby kicked again, like agreement, like understanding, like a small person already learning that sometimes you can't count on anyone but yourself. Grace kept her eyes closed. The morning stretched ahead. Long, empty, alone. 11 o'clock. Grace had been watching the clock, watching, waiting, knowing he would come, knowing he wouldn't. Both things true at once. The door opened. Preston Hartwell entered, 36 years old, expensive suit, Tom Ford. She recognized it. She'd picked it up from the dry cleaners last month. Dark gray, perfectly pressed, but wrinkled now, slept in, the collar askew, his tie loose, top button undone. He was wearing yesterday's clothes. "Jesus, Grace." Preston stopped at the foot of her bed, ran a hand through his hair, dark brown, normally styled, now mussed. "You scared me." Grace said nothing, just looked at him, really looked. Cologne, she could smell it from here. His usual scent, cedar and bergamot, but underneath, something else. Perfume, not her jasmine, different, lighter, sweeter. Vanessa wore bergamot. Grace knew this, had known for 3 months, ever since she found the receipt. The one Preston claimed was for client gifts, $200 perfume, bergamot, not jasmine. "I called you 17 times, Grace said, her voice steady, calmer than she expected. "My phone died." Preston moved to the chair beside Ishton. Sat down, didn't touch her, didn't reach for her hand, didn't touch her belly. "I was at the office. Richard and I were finalizing the merger. You know how intense these negotiations get. I had my phone on silent, didn't realize it died until this morning." Grace watched his face, the way his left eye twitched, just slightly. He did that when he lied. She'd learned to recognize it. 2 years of watching, of noticing, of cataloging small tells. "You're okay, though," Preston continued. "Baby's okay. That's what matters, right?" "Dr. Walsh said another 30 minutes and I could have had a stroke," Grace said quietly. "The baby could have died." "But you didn't." He didn't. Preston checked his Apple Watch. Series 8. She'd given it to him for his birthday, 3 months ago. He'd kissed her, said thank you, then spent the rest of the evening on his phone. "Look, I need to get to the office. This merger is at a critical point. Timing is everything. But I wanted to come check on you first. See that you're all right." Grace felt something crack inside her chest. Small fissure. Spiderweb pattern spreading. "Your office called here," she said. "Looking for you. They said you never came in last night." The twitch. There. His left eye. Quick. Almost imperceptible. "They must have called the wrong extension," Preston said. "Oh." His jaw tight. "You know how the new phone system is. Still working out bugs. Half the time calls don't route properly. They called your cell, your direct line, and the main reception. All 3 numbers." "Grace." Preston stood up. Moved toward the door. "I don't have time for this right now. You're hormonal. You've been through trauma. I understand you're upset. But I was working. I am working on saving our future. This merger, it's everything. It's our financial security. It's our son's college fund. It's our retirement. So yes, sometimes I miss phone calls. Sometimes I work late. That's what adults do. They work." The crack widened. Grace felt it, spreading, branching, running through her like fault lines. I almost died, she whispered. Preston paused at the door, hand on the handle, didn't turn around. But you didn't. He left. Grace stared at the closed door. The beeping continued. Beep, 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 steady, uncaring, mechanical. She picked up her phone, started to call him back, to apologize, to say she was being emotional, being hormonal, being difficult. Her finger hovered over his name. She set the phone down. Did not call, did not apologize, did not make herself smaller. The door opened again. For a wild second, Grace thought Preston had come back, had realized, had understood, had turned around. But it was Natalie Brooks, Grace's best friend since college, 12 years, since freshman orientation, since they'd been assigned neighboring dorm rooms, since they'd stayed up all night talking about dreams and boys and futures that seemed so bright and possible. Natalie carried an overnight bag, a paper sack from Grace's favorite cafe, the one that made real sourdough, the one with the lavender lattes. Her expression was fury barely contained. Did he really just leave? Natalie set the bags down, controlled movements, the kind of control that comes from trying not to scream. You almost died and he stayed for what, 12 minutes? 11, Grace said. I was counting. Natalie sat on the edge of the bed, took Grace's hand, said nothing for a long moment, just held her hand, squeezed, solid, real, present. Honey, Natalie's voice was gentle, careful. I've been biting my tongue for 2 years, but this crosses a line even I can't ignore anymore. Grace opened her mouth to defend him, to explain, to make excuses. The words formed, the explanations lined up, ready, practiced. She'd given them so many times before. The merger is stressful, the business is demanding. He's just busy, he's just tired, he's just distracted. But the words wouldn't come, because Natalie was right, and Grace was so tired of defending the indefensible, so tired of being the woman who made excuses, so tired of performing her own life, so tired of pretending that this was normal, that this was love, that this was marriage. I know, Grace said finally. Just that. Just, I know. Natalie's face crumpled. Just for a second. Then she composed herself, reached into the paper bag, pulled out a sourdough roll, still warm, wrapped in wax paper. The smell filled the room, yeast and butter and comfort. Eat, Natalie said. Then we're going to talk about what happens next. Grace took the roll, tore off a piece. The bread was soft inside, crusty outside, chewy. She put it in her mouth, chewed slowly. It tasted like something. Not cardboard, not nothing. Something real. She started to cry. Not loud crying, not sobbing, just tears, sliding down her cheeks, silent, unstoppable. Like something inside had finally broken open. Like the crack had widened into a canyon. Natalie pulled her close. Careful of the IV, careful of the belly. Just held her. Let her cry, didn't tell her to stop, didn't tell her it would be okay. Just held her while she broke apart in small, quiet pieces. He was with her, Grace said against Natalie's shoulder. Last night when I had the seizure, he was with Vanessa. I know. How long have you known? 6 months. Natalie pulled back, looked Grace in the eye. Maybe longer. I didn't want to tell you. You were pregnant. You seemed happy. Or, I thought you seemed happy. Now I realize you were just pretending. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner. Grace wiped her face. The tears kept coming. She wiped again. Gave up. Let them fall. Everyone knew, she said. Everyone but me. Or I knew. I did know. I just didn't want to know that I knew. Natalie handed her a tissue. Grace blew her nose. Undignified, loud. She didn't care. What do I do? Grace asked. Right now, nothing. You rest. You get better. You let people take care of you. Natalie stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. And then, when you're ready, when you're strong, you decide what comes next. Grace touched her belly. The baby was quiet now, sleeping maybe. She closed her eyes, felt exhaustion pulling at her. Heavy, thick, the kind that comes from truth, from finally admitting what you've been hiding from. Nat? Yeah? Thank you for not saying I told you so. I would never. Natalie turned from the window, smiled, sad smile, knowing smile. But I am thinking it very loudly. Grace almost laughed. Almost. The sound caught in her throat. Came out as something between laugh and Natalie came back to the bedside, pulled the blanket up, tucked it around Grace's shoulders. Maternal gesture. Caring. The way friends become family when family fails. Sleep, Natalie said. I'll be right here. Grace closed her eyes. The beeping continued. Steady, constant. Proof that she was alive. That her baby was alive. That tomorrow would come whether she was ready or not. She slept and dreamed of nothing. William Morrison arrived at 7 in the evening. Grace heard him before she saw him. His footsteps in the hallway, confident, measured. The walk of a man who'd spent 35 years in courtrooms, who'd presided over thousands of cases, who'd signed in hundreds of sentences, who carried the weight of justice in his bearing. He appeared in the doorway. 62 years old, silver hair, still thick, combed back, steel gray suit, white shirt, navy tie. Even on a Friday evening, even rushing to the hospital. Bill Morrison looked like he was ready for the bench. He stood there, just stood, looking at his daughter, 7 months pregnant, hospital gown, monitors beeping, IV in her arm, alone. Grace watched something shift in her father's face. Subtle. Most people wouldn't notice, but she'd seen that expression before, in old courtroom footage, when someone hurt a child, when someone abused power, when someone needed to learn what justice actually meant. Where is he? Bill's voice was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that precedes hurricanes. Work. The merger. Grace's voice broke on the last word. Just broke. Shattered. Like glass. Bill crossed the room. Sat into the chair Preston had barely warmed. Took Grace's hand in both of his. Large hands. Scarred knuckles. He'd been a boxer in college. Before law school, before the federal bench, before everything else. His hands remembered. Tell me everything, he said. Not a request, a command. Gentle, but absolute. So Grace told him. About the missed appointments? The first ultrasound Preston skipped. He'd said he had a meeting. Couldn't reschedule. It was fine. She'd recorded it on her phone, but was wrong. He'd watched 30 seconds, said that's nice. Went back to his laptop. About the late nights, coming home at midnight, 1 in the morning. Sometimes not at all. Those nights he texted, said he was staying at a hotel downtown, needed to be close to the office, early meetings, important clients. Couldn't drive home just to drive back. About the perfume, finding it first on his collar, then on his shirts, then just accepting it. The scent that wasn't hers, that followed him, that marked him as someone else's. About the credit card charges, hotels in their own city, the Riverside Hotel, every Tuesday afternoon for months. She'd check the statements, then stop checking, because knowing hurt, not knowing hurt, everything hurt. About the text messages he hid, the phone calls he took in other rooms, the way he turned his phone face down. Always, every surface, face down, like what was on the screen might burn through. About the way he looked at her now, her pregnant body, like it disgusted him, like she was something unfortunate, something inconvenient, something he had to tolerate until it was over. Bill listened, didn't interrupt, didn't react. His face remained still, calm. But Grace knew. She knew that expression. The judge face, the face that evaluated, calculated, decided. Dad, don't. Grace squeezed his hand. I can handle this. You shouldn't have to. Bill stood, kissed her forehead. His lips were warm, dry, fatherly. Get some rest, sweetheart. Everything is going to be fine. Dad, what are you going to do? Bill reached the door, stopped, turned back, smiled. The smile didn't reach his eyes, didn't even try. Nothing illegal, he said. That's the beautiful thing about 35 years on the federal bench. I don't need to break laws. I helped write them. He left. Grace lay alone again. The city lights filtered through the window. Orange glow, urban twilight. Never fully dark, never fully light. Suspended state. She touched her belly, whispered to the baby, to herself, to the universe. I'm not crazy. I know what I know, and knowing it means I can't unknow it anymore. The words hung in the air. True, final, irrevocable. Grace had spent months pretending, years maybe, telling herself she was imagining things, being paranoid, being hormonal, being too sensitive. Preston said she was too sensitive, said she saw problems where there weren't any, said she needed to relax. But she wasn't imagining anything. The affairs were real, the lies were real, the betrayal was real. And now she knew, not suspected, knew. Knowledge was power, terrible power, the kind that couldn't be unknown, the kind that changes everything. Night fell, the hospital quieted, nurses made rounds, quiet footsteps, hushed voices. Somewhere a baby cried. Newborn cry. Tiny. Insistent. Grace touched her belly again. Soon. So soon her baby would cry like that, would need her, would depend on her. She had to be strong, had to be ready, had to be something more than the woman who made excuses and pretended and smiled. Grace watched the city lights through the window, counted them. Red taillights leaving, white headlights arriving, everyone going somewhere. She felt suspended, between the life she'd had and the life she'd have, between who she was and who she'd become. The baby kicked, strong kicks, kicks that said, I'm here, I'm real, we're going to be okay. Grace placed both hands on her belly, the skin stretched tight, drum-like. She felt every movement, every flutter, every shift. She cried, not sad crying, not happy crying, just crying, releasing something she didn't know she'd been holding. Some tension, some pretense, some lie she'd been telling herself. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm, beep, beep, beep. The city moved outside. Traffic sounds, distant sirens, the ordinary sounds of life continuing. Grace lay perfectly still, letting everything she thought she knew dissolve, like sugar in water, sweet and drowning and inevitable. She was 32 years old, 7 months pregnant, married to a man who didn't love her, maybe never loved her, maybe loved the idea of her, the performance of her, the convenience of her. But that was ending. She didn't know how yet, didn't know when, but it was ending, because she couldn't unknow what she now knew. And knowledge, terrible, powerful, liberating knowledge, was the beginning of everything. Grace closed her eyes, breathed deep, felt the baby move. Tomorrow she would be stronger. Tomorrow she would plan. Tomorrow she would begin. But tonight she just let herself feel, let herself know, let herself begin the process of becoming someone new, someone who didn't pretend, someone who didn't make excuses, someone who knew her worth, the woman she was supposed to be all along. Bill Morrison sat in his study, oak desk, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, law books mostly, bound volumes of federal cases, state statutes, legal journals, the accumulated knowledge of 35 years on the bench. His phone sat in front of him, charged, ready. He picked it up, made the first call. Ethan, it's Dad. His son, Grace's brother, 35 years old, investigative journalist. 3 major corporate corruption stories in the last 5 years. Each one had led to indictments. Ethan knew how to dig, knew how to find what people tried to hide. Dad, everything okay? It's almost 10. I need you to look into someone. Quietly. Ethan's voice sharpened, alert. Who? Preston Hartwell. Everything. Business, personal, particularly focus on company finances and his relationship with an employee named Vanessa Cole. Silence, then. This is about Grace. Yes. What happened? She had a seizure yesterday, eclampsia. Almost died. Preston was unreachable for 6 hours. I need to know where he was. I need to know everything he's done. Everything he's planning to do. I'm on it. Keyboard sounds. Ethan was already working. How is she? Physically? She'll recover. Emotionally? Bill closed his eyes, saw his daughter in that hospital bed. That's going to take longer. Send me everything you have, names, dates, bank accounts. I'll start pulling threads. Bill ended the call, made the second one. James Rourke. James, it's Bill Morrison. Judge Morrison. James sounded pleased, surprised. It's been too long. How are you? I need a consultation. Hypothetically. Hypothetically. James's tone shifted. Professional. I'm listening. A pregnant woman, 7 months. Husband commits adultery during a medical emergency. She nearly dies. He was with his mistress. Couldn't be reached. What are her options? Long pause. In this state, she owns half of everything. More if we can prove he used marital assets for the affair. Community property. Anything acquired during marriage is split 50-50, unless there's proof of dissipation of assets. Then the court can award more to the innocent party. How much more? Everything. If the case is strong enough, if the evidence is clear, everything. Bill, James's voice softened. Is this about Grace? Hypothetically? I'll draw up preliminary papers, just in case. And Bill, I'm sorry, Grace deserves better. Yes, she does. Third call, Margaret, his wife, Grace's mother. She answered on the first ring. Is she all right? Physically, yes. The baby is fine. But Maggie, we need to bring her home when the hospital releases her. She won't leave him. Margaret knew her daughter, knew the way Grace made herself small, made excuses, made peace. She'll want to try, to fix it, to make it work. She will after she sees what Ethan finds. Bill opened his laptop, pulled up his contacts list, 35 years of connections, judges, attorneys, investigators, people who owed him favors, people who respected him, people who understood that justice wasn't always served in courtrooms. Our girl thinks she's protecting her marriage. We're going to protect her. What do you need me to do? Be ready. When she's released, bring her home. Don't ask, just bring her here. Away from him, away from that house, somewhere safe. Done, Jerry. Margaret paused. Bill, what are you planning? Justice, Maggie. Just justice. He ended the call, pulled up another number. Personal cell, not the house line. Marcus Sullivan, private investigator. Former FBI, 23 years of friendship. Countless cases together. Marcus, it's Bill Morrison. Your Honor, it's late. Everything okay? I need full surveillance. Financial forensics, communications history, everything admissible in court, and everything that points to what might be. Target? Preston Hartwell, 36, CEO of Hartwell Tech Solutions, downtown office, home address in Riverside Park, married to my daughter. Ah, Marcus understood immediately. What's the situation? Bill explained. The seizure, the missing hours, the suspected affair, the financial concerns, everything. I'm on him tomorrow morning, Marcus said. Full surveillance, GPS tracking on his vehicle if I can get access, phone records if you can get me a warrant. I can get you a warrant, then we'll know everything within a week, maybe less. These tech guys, they think they're clever. They're not. They leave digital trails everywhere. One more thing, Vanessa Cole, employee at his company. I need everything on her too. How long they've been involved, where they meet, everything. Consider it done. Bill sat back in his chair, looked at the law books lining his walls. All those years, all those cases. People thought justice was about courtrooms, about judges and juries and formal proceedings. But sometimes justice started earlier, in the preparation, in the investigation, in building a case so airtight that the verdict was inevitable. Preston Hartwell had made a mistake, a fatal mistake. He'd hurt Bill's daughter, abandoned her in a medical emergency, endangered his grandchild. Men like Preston thought they were untouchable, thought money and charm and confidence made them immune. They were wrong. Bill Morrison had spent 35 years watching men like Preston, studying them, learning their patterns, their weaknesses, their inevitable mistakes. And now he would use everything he knew, not for revenge. Revenge was petty. Personal, emotional. This was justice. Cold, calculated, inevitable. Bill picked up his phone. One more call. His old law clerk, now a sitting judge in the county where Preston's company was registered. Sandra, it's Bill Morrison. I need a favor. The pieces were moving. The investigation beginning. The trap being built. Piece by piece. Brick by brick. Until the walls were so high, Preston wouldn't see escape until it was too late. Bill looked at his wedding photo on the desk. 40 years ago, he and Margaret, young, hopeful, building a life together. They'd raised 2 children, taught them to be strong, to be honest, to demand respect. Grace had forgotten that. Or Preston had made her forget, had convinced her she didn't deserve respect, didn't deserve honesty, didn't deserve love. Bill would remind her, and he would make sure Preston Hartwell remembered too, that actions have consequences, that some lines shouldn't be crossed, that underestimating William Morrison was the last mistake anyone made. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the night. The city lights glittered. Thousands of windows, thousands of lives, each one a story, some happy, some sad, some just beginning, some coming to an end. Preston's story was coming to an end. He just didn't know it yet. Bill smiled, small smile, private smile. The smile of a man who knew the outcome before the trial began. Justice was coming, inevitable as sunrise, patient as stone, and absolutely unstoppable. Dr. Walsh released Grace after 3 days. 3 days of monitoring. Blood pressure checks every 4 hours, fetal monitoring. Medications? A parade of specialists. Neurologist, high-risk pregnancy specialist, counselor, all saying the same thing. Bed rest, no stress. High-risk pregnancy now, no stress. Grace wanted to laugh. How was she supposed to avoid stress? How was anyone supposed to avoid stress? Life was stress. Marriage was stress. Pregnancy was stress. Existing was stress. But she signed the discharge papers, accepted the prescriptions, nodded at the instructions, smiled at the nurses, thanked everyone, played the role of grateful patient, compliant wife, good mother-to-be. Preston arrived at 10:30. 30 minutes late. He'd said 10. She'd been dressed and ready, sitting in the wheelchair, hospital policy required, waiting. Sorry, traffic. Preston took the bag from the nurse. Didn't meet Grace's eyes. Ready to go home? Home. The word felt foreign, like it meant something different now. Home used to be safety, comfort, the place you went to rest, to be yourself, to let down your guard. Now home felt like performance, like theater, like walking on stage every morning and pretending to be someone she wasn't. In the car, silence. Preston drove, eyes forward, jaw tight. He'd shaved, wore clean clothes, different suit, navy this time. He looked like he always looked, successful, put together, perfect. Grace watched the neighborhoods pass, familiar streets feeling foreign, the coffee shop where she used to meet friends, the bookstore where she'd spent Saturday afternoons, the park where she'd imagined pushing a stroller someday, teaching her son to swing, to slide, to be brave. Everything looked the same. Everything felt different. Preston's phone buzzed, constantly, every few minutes. Buzz, buzz, buzz. He glanced at it, set it down, glanced again. The screen lit up. Grace could see the name from the corner of her eye. Vanessa, over and over. Vanessa. They turned onto their street. Riverside Park, expensive homes, manicured lawns, 3-car garages. The neighborhood where successful people lived, where doctors and lawyers and tech CEOs bought houses and raised families and pretended everything was perfect. Their house, 4-bedroom colonial, white with black shutters. They'd bought it 2 years ago. Grace had loved it immediately, the wide porch, the big kitchen, the room that would be perfect for a nursery. She'd imagined their life here, dinner parties, holiday decorations, growing old together. Now the house looked like a stranger's, like something from a magazine. Beautiful, empty, not hers. Preston parked, got her bag from the trunk, helped her out of the car. His hand on her elbow. light touch, impersonal, the way you'd help any pregnant woman, any stranger, anyone. Inside, the house was exactly as she'd left it. The oatmeal pot still on the stove. Someone had cleaned it. Natalie, probably. The mail stacked on the counter. Bills and catalogs and coupons. The ordinary debris of life. Grace stood in the entryway. Her house, her home. It felt like a museum, like she was visiting someone else's life. I need to go back to the office. Preston set her bag down, checked his watch, expensive watch, the one she'd given him. Just for a few hours, will you be okay? Will you be okay? Not, how can I help? Not, what do you need? Not, I'll stay with you. Just, will you be okay? Grace sat on the couch, their couch, gray velvet. She'd picked it out. Spent weeks choosing fabric, getting samples, making sure it was perfect. They'd sat here, watched movies, made plans, made love. Now it felt like sitting on a stranger's furniture. Preston, we need to talk. When I get back, I promise. He was already moving toward the door, already leaving, already gone. I know about Vanessa. Grace said it, finally, just said it, the word she'd been swallowing for months. Preston froze, hand on the doorknob, back to her. Long moment, endless moment. Grace could hear her heartbeat, could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen, could hear everything and nothing. Then Preston turned, face carefully neutral, practiced expression. The one he used in business meetings, professional, calm, in control. I don't know what you think you know. I know you were with her when I had the seizure. That's not true. Your office said you never came in. Your phone was off for 6 hours. Grace's voice was getting stronger, louder, more certain. Where were you, Preston? This is ridiculous. You're hormonal and paranoid and get out. The word surprised her, surprised him more. Get out of this house, now. What? I said get out. Leave. Go back to her. Go back to your office. Go anywhere, but get out of this house. Right now. Preston's face changed. The mask dropped. Just for a second. Just long enough. And there it was. The contempt he'd been hiding. The disgust, the irritation. Like she was something annoying. Something he had to tolerate. Something in his way. You can't kick me out of my own house. Actually, Bill Morrison stepped from the kitchen. Grace hadn't known he was there, hadn't heard him come in. But there he was, her father, standing in her kitchen like an avenging angel in a three-piece suit. She can. This house is in both names, marital property, and given your behavior during a medical emergency, any judge would grant a temporary restraining order. Want to test that theory? Preston looked between them. Grace, Bill, back to Grace. She watched his face cycle through expressions. Shock, anger, calculation. The same routine she'd seen 100 times. Every time she questioned him, every time she asked for truth, he didn't answer questions. He recalibrated his lies. This is insane. Preston grabbed his keys. Fine, I'll leave, but we're talking about this later, when you're thinking clearly, when you're not being emotional. He left, slammed the door. The house shook. Pictures rattled on the walls. Then silence. Grace sat on the couch, stared at the closed door, waited to feel something. Relief, sadness, anger, anything. She felt nothing, just empty, hollow. Like someone had scooped out her insides and left only the shell. Bill sat beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. She leaned into him. Her father, solid, real, still here after everyone else had left. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. For what? Letting my marriage fall apart? For being so stupid I didn't see what everyone else saw? For being strong enough to stop pretending. Grace started to cry. Again, always crying now, like she'd sprung a leak and couldn't stop, couldn't fix it. Just kept leaking sadness and grief and rage. Bill held her, didn't speak, just held her while she cried. While the afternoon sun moved across the floor, while the clock ticked, while life continued outside, indifferent, relentless, Moving forward, whether she was ready or not, eventually the tears stopped. Grace sat up, wiped her face, looked around her beautiful house, the home she'd made, the life she'd built, all of it based on lies, on pretending, on making herself small enough to fit into someone else's vision. What happens now, she asked. Now we build a case. Now we protect you and my grandson. Now we make sure Preston Hartwell learns that actions have consequences. I don't want revenge, Dad. I just want out. This isn't revenge, sweetheart. This is justice. There's a difference. Grace touched her belly. The baby was awake, moving, pressing against her ribs. Soon, so soon he'd be here, dependent on her, trusting her, needing her to be strong. She had to be strong. Not for Preston, not for the marriage, not for the performance, for her son, for herself, for the woman she was supposed to be. Grace stood, walked to the window, looked out at the street. Perfect lawns, perfect houses, perfect lives, all of it performance, all of it pretending, everyone hiding something. But she was done hiding, done pretending, done making herself small. The woman in the hospital had been a stranger, but Grace was starting to recognize her now, starting to understand. That woman wasn't weak, wasn't broken, wasn't pathetic. That woman was tired. Tired of lying, tired of performing, tired of being someone she wasn't. And tired people eventually rest, eventually stop, eventually say enough. Grace had said enough and everything was about to change. Ethan Morrison arrived that evening. Laptop bag over his shoulder, tablet under his arm, file folders in his hands. He looked like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes, 2 days worth of stubble, a coffee-stained shirt. Gracie, he hugged her, careful of her belly. How are you holding up? I'm okay. Liar, he smiled, sad smile, knowing smile. But I appreciate the effort. They gathered at the dining room table. Grace, Ethan, Bill. Margaret had arrived an hour earlier, former prosecutor. She sat like she used to sit in courtrooms, straight spine, sharp eyes, ready for battle. Ethan opened his laptop, pulled up files, images, documents, the digital trail of Preston Hartwell's life. Where do you want me to start? Ethan asked. The affair, Bill said. How long? Ethan clicked. Photos appeared on screen. Preston and Vanessa, outside a restaurant, his hand on her back, her head on his shoulder. Date stamp in the corner. June 14th, last year. 18 months, Ethan said. At least, maybe longer. Started before Grace got pregnant. Grace stared at the photo. 18 months. Not 3 months. Not 6 months. 18 months, a year and a half of lying. Of sneaking. Of betrayal. Where? Margaret asked. Voice cold. Prosecutor voice. The Riverside Hotel, mostly. Ethan pulled up credit card statements. Every Tuesday afternoon for a year. Room 213. He told Grace these were client meetings. Client meetings. Grace remembered those Tuesdays. She'd asked once to join him. Meet his clients, support his business. He'd said no, said client has preferred one-on-one meetings, said she'd be bored, said it wasn't necessary. She'd believed him. God, she'd believed everything. More photos, Preston and Vanessa at dinner, at the theater, walking in the park, kissing in a parking garage, timestamp on the kissing photo, March 28th, Grace's 32nd birthday. That night, she'd thrown herself a small party, nothing big, just close friends, cake from the bakery she loved. Preston had stayed for an hour, said he felt sick, food poisoning maybe. He'd left, gone home to rest. He'd gone to Vanessa on Grace's birthday. There's more. Ethan pulled up emails, company accounts, Preston's business email. They've been planning this for months. Look, the emails were explicit, not just about sex, about the future, about leaving Grace, about starting over. Once I'm free, once the baby comes, once we can finally be together properly. Grace read them, one after another. Love letters, plans, promises, all of it happening while she was pregnant, while she was building a nursery, while she was making plans for their family. Financial records. Ethan spread papers across the table. Bank statements, investment accounts, transfer histories. Preston's been moving money systematically for 6 months, from joint accounts to accounts in just his name, shell corporations, offshore accounts. He's hiding assets. Bill leaned forward, studied the numbers. How much? $200,000, gone from joint accounts. Another $300,000 from Grace's inheritance account. The money her grandmother left her. Grace felt dizzy. $200,000. Her grandmother's money, the money she'd put in their joint account because we're married, because what's mine is yours, because that's what married people do. He stole from me, she said quietly. Yes, Ethan confirmed. And there's more. Preston's company is failing. The merger he keeps talking about, it's not a growth opportunity. It's a bailout. He's leveraged everything, the company, the house, everything. If this deal falls through, he loses it all. How much debt? Bill asked. $7 million, personally guaranteed. Loans, lines of credit, investors expecting returns. If the merger doesn't close in 60 days, he files for bankruptcy. $7 million. The number was incomprehensible. Grace couldn't process it. $7 million. How did someone even accumulate $7 million in debt? So he needs me to stay, Grace said. Understanding dawning. Needs the marriage to look stable for the merger. Exactly, Bill. Margaret tapped the papers. Divorce would raise red flags, make investors nervous. He needs you compliant, quiet, pregnant and dependent, at least until the merger closes. And after? Grace asked. She knew the answer, knew it in her bones, but needed to hear it said. Ethan closed his laptop, looked at his sister. After the merger closes, he divorces you, keeps the business, leaves you with debt and a newborn. He's been planning this for months, Gracie. You having that seizure just accelerated his timeline. Made you ask questions, made you harder to control. Grace stood, walked to the kitchen, poured water, drank it, poured more. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, clean, clarifying rage. Preston had stolen from her, lied to her, planned to abandon her, and all while she was pregnant, all while she was vulnerable, all while she trusted him. There's something else. Ethan pulled out another folder. Amanda Fisher, do you remember her? Grace remembered. Pretty girl, 28 maybe, 29, worked in Preston's marketing department. Left suddenly last year. Grace had asked about it. Preston said Amanda was difficult to work with. Said she didn't fit company culture. Said it was best she moved on. She filed a hostile work environment complaint, Ethan said. Sexual harassment, multiple incidents. Preston's company settled. $50,000. Confidential settlement. Non-disclosure agreement. Who witnessed the harassment? Bill asked. Vanessa Cole. Ethan slid a document across the table. She was working there then, saw everything, didn't report it, got promoted instead. Twice. Once right after Amanda left. Once after the settlement. Margaret picked up the document, read it, her face hardened. Pattern of behavior. This gets better and better. Better? Grace's voice was sharp. He harassed women. He made someone feel unsafe at work. How is that better? For the case, Bill said gently. It's better for the case. Shows character. Shows pattern. Shows that what he did to you isn't an isolated incident. It's who he is, what he does, how he treats women. Grace sat back down. The dining room felt smaller. The walls closing in. All this information. All these crimes. All this evidence of the man she'd married. The man she'd loved. The man she'd trusted with her life. With her child's life. Who was he? Had she ever really known him? Or had she just known the performance? The mask? The version he wanted her to see? What do we do with all this? Grace asked. We build a case, Bill said, airtight, irrefutable, and then we strike. When? After the merger closes. After he thinks he's won. After he's vulnerable. Grace looked at the photos spread across the table. Preston and Vanessa, smiling, happy, in love maybe, or performing love. Hard to tell the difference anymore. I want to fight, Grace said, whatever it takes. I want to fight. Bill smiled. There was his daughter, the fighter, the one who'd gotten knocked down but was standing back up. Then we fight smart. They talked late into the night, plans forming, strategies developing, legal options, financial protections, custody considerations, everything that would need to happen, everything that would need to be proven, everything that would need to be protected. Grace listened, absorbed, learned. She'd never been involved in legal proceedings before, never needed to be, never thought she would need to be. But she was learning now, learning fast, learning that knowledge was power, that documentation was everything, that truth required proof, and they had proof. So much proof. Photos, emails, financial records, witness statements, a pattern of behavior spanning years. Preston Hartwell had made a mistake. He'd underestimated her, thought she was weak, thought she was passive, thought she would accept anything, tolerate anything, forgive anything. He was wrong. Grace touched her belly. The baby was quiet now, sleeping. She envied that, the ability to sleep, to rest, to not know, to exist in innocent darkness. But she knew now, couldn't unknow, couldn't go back to innocent. Could only go forward, into truth, into knowledge, into whatever came next. Grace, Ethan touched her hand. You okay? I deserve better than this, she said quietly. I always deserve better than this. Somewhere along the way I forgot that. You did deserve better, Margaret said, and you're going to get it. Not revenge, not petty satisfaction. Justice. Real justice. Grace nodded, stood, excused herself, went upstairs. To the nursery, the room she'd prepared with such hope. Clouds on ceiling, crib assembled, tiny clothes washed and folded, everything ready, everything perfect. She sat in the rocking chair, the expensive one, the one Preston had complained about. $800 for a chair? Really? Is that necessary? Yes, it was necessary, because she would sit here, rock her son, sing to him, love him, keep him safe. She would do it alone, without Preston, without the life she'd imagined, without the partner she'd expected. But she would do it. She was strong enough, had always been strong enough, just forgot for a while. Let someone convince her she was weak, was needy, was too much. She wasn't too much, wasn't weak, wasn't needy. She was strong, was capable, was enough, all by herself. Enough. Grace rocked slowly, back and forth, the motion soothing, rhythmic, like waves, like breathing, like heartbeat. She didn't cry. Crying would mean this was unexpected. Crying would mean she didn't already know. But she'd known, deep down, in the place women know things. She'd known for months, maybe years. Now she was just admitting it. Admission was powerful, terrible, and powerful and necessary. Grace rocked and rocked and rocked, until the moon rose, until the house quieted, until she heard her parents go to bed in the guest room. She rocked in the darkness, planning, thinking, becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, the woman she was supposed to be all along. Morning came too early. Grace woke in the rocking chair, stiff, uncomfortable. Her back ached, her neck was sore, but she'd slept, somehow. Despite everything, she'd slept. Downstairs, voices, her parents, Ethan, someone else, male voice, unfamiliar. Grace washed her face, brushed her teeth, changed clothes, maternity jeans, black top. She looked at herself in the mirror. Same face, same body, same pregnant belly, but different eyes, harder eyes, knowing eyes. She went downstairs. The dining room had transformed into a war room. Laptop, papers, coffee cups, everyone already working, already planning. A man she didn't recognize stood at the head of the table. Early 50s, well-dressed, gray suit, expensive briefcase. He turned when she entered. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm James Rourke, attorney. Your father and I have known each other for many years. Grace shook his hand, firm grip, confident. Thank you for coming. Of course, James gestured to the table. Shall we? They sat. James opened his briefcase, pulled out documents, contracts, forms, legal papers with tiny print and intimidating language. Standard divorce filing in this state gives you half of marital assets, James began. But if we can prove fraud, adultery, dissipation of marital assets, we can get more, much more. Define more, Grace said. Everything. James didn't smile, didn't soften it, just said it plain. The house, the business, full custody, spousal support, child support calculated on his actual income, not the reduced income he'll claim. We can dismantle him financially, legally, completely. How? Evidence. James tapped the folders Ethan had compiled. Your brother has done excellent work. Financial records showing asset concealment, emails proving adultery, photos documenting the affair, witness statements about sexual harassment. We have everything we need. But, Ethan interrupted, if we file now, Preston knows we know. He'll hide more, destroy evidence, move remaining money, accelerate his plans. So we wait, Bill said. We let him think Grace is compliant, broken, defeated. We document everything, build an airtight case. Then, when the merger closes, when he thinks he's safe, we strike. Grace considered. How long? The merger closes in 45 days, Ethan said. We wait, watch, gather more evidence. Then hit him with everything at once. And in the meantime, Grace asked, I just pretend, play the dutiful wife, let him come and go? You protect yourself, Margaret said. Legally, financially, we file a quiet legal separation, not divorce, separation. It freezes marital assets. He can't move more money without court approval. James nodded. We file in a different county, make it look like routine paperwork. By the time he finds out, his accounts are frozen. He's trapped. Grace thought about it. 45 days, 6 weeks, pretending, performing, being someone she wasn't. It felt dishonest, wrong. But Preston had been performing for 18 months, had lied and stolen and betrayed, and he would continue if given the chance, would take more, leave her with nothing, leave her and their son vulnerable. I'll do it, Grace said. Whatever it takes, I'll do it. They spent the morning planning. James explained legal procedures, custody considerations, financial protections, how to document everything, how to prepare, how to build a case that couldn't be challenged. Ethan showed her how to save emails, screenshot texts, document incidents, keep a journal, record dates and times and details. Everything would matter. Everything would be evidence. Margaret talked about what to expect, how Preston would react, how he would lie, deflect, gaslight, make her doubt herself, make her feel crazy, make her question everything. He'll tell you you're imagining things, Margaret said, that you are hormonal, paranoid, overreacting. He'll make you feel like you're the problem, like you're crazy. Don't believe him. Trust yourself. Trust what you know. Bill just listened, supervised, added comments when needed. But mostly he watched his daughter, watched her absorb information, watched her get stronger, watched her transform from victim to fighter. There was a knock at the door. Bill answered, came back with another man, late 50s, graying hair, sharp eyes, dressed casually, jeans, polo shirt, looked like someone's dad, someone's neighbor. Harmless. He wasn't harmless. This is Marcus Sullivan, Bill said, private investigator, former FBI. He'll be handling surveillance. Marcus shook Grace's hand. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm sorry you're going through this. Call me Grace, and thank you. Marcus opened a tablet, showed them photos. Preston leaving the office. Preston meeting Vanessa. Preston at restaurants, hotels. Always Vanessa. Always Tuesday afternoons. Like clockwork. He's predictable, Marcus said. That makes my job easier. But there's something else you should know. He clicked to a new photo. Preston, Vanessa, a third woman, restaurant, wine glasses, intimate setting. Who is that? Grace asked. Julia Henderson, Marcus said, wife of Richard Thornton, Preston's business partner. The room went silent. Julia. Grace knew Julia. They'd had dinner together. Double dates, girls' nights. Julia had brought casserole when Grace had morning sickness, had asked about baby names, had seemed kind, friendly, normal. Julia was also pregnant. 6 months. Grace had been to her baby shower. How long? Grace asked. At least 6 months, maybe longer. Marcus showed more photos. Preston and Julia, different restaurants, a hotel, not the Riverside, somewhere else, somewhere more expensive. They're being more careful than he is with Vanessa, meeting less frequently, different locations. Does Richard know? Bill asked. No, Richard Thornton is fronting most of the money for the merger. His personal wealth? If he knew Preston was sleeping with his wife, he'd pull funding. The whole deal would collapse. Grace felt sick. Not pregnancy sick, soul sick. Preston wasn't just betraying her. He was betraying his best friend, his business partner, the man fronting millions of dollars to save his company. How deep did the lies go? How many people was he betraying? How many lives was he destroying? There's more. Marcus's face was grim. We got recordings. Hotel rooms aren't as private as people think. Audio isn't perfect, but it's clear enough. He played it. Voices, Preston and Julia, talking, planning. Once the merger closes, once Richard's money is in, we take it and run. Where? Zurich, already have accounts set up, new identities, everything arranged. What about Grace, Vanessa, our spouses? We leave them, all of them, start over, just us. And the babies? Long pause, then, we're not keeping them. Too complicated, too much baggage. We start fresh, no kids, no exes, no past. The recording ended. Grace sat very still. The room spun. The walls closed in. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process. We're not keeping them. The babies, her baby, Julia's baby. Preston was planning to leave them both, to abandon his children, to pretend they didn't exist, to start over like they never happened. Grace, Margaret was beside her, hand on her shoulder. Breathe, just breathe. Grace gulped air. Once, twice, 3 times. The spinning slowed. The walls stopped moving. She placed her hands on her belly, felt her son moving. Alive, real, wanted, even if his father didn't want him. The hardest part, Grace said quietly, is admitting I knew all along. Not about Julia, not about Zurich, but that he was capable of this. I knew. I just didn't want to know that I knew. No one spoke. What was there to say? They all knew. Everyone always knows. Deep down, in the place we don't want to look. We know. Grace stood, walked to the window, looked out at the street. Perfect houses, perfect lawns, perfect juice. All of it performance. All of it lies. When do we tell Richard? She asked. After the merger closes, Bill said. We let Preston think he won. Let him believe his plan is working. Then we tell Richard everything. With evidence, with proof. Richard pulls his money. The deal collapses. Preston loses everything. And I get everything he tried to steal, everything he tried to hide, everything he thought he'd keep. We get it back, plus interest, plus damages, plus custody of your son. Grace nodded, turned from the window, looked at the people in her dining room. Her family, her team, her army, all of them here, fighting for her, protecting her, reminding her that she mattered, that she deserved better, that she was worth fighting for. Then let's do it, Grace said. Let's take him down. They worked all day, finalizing plans, preparing documents, building the case. Grace signed papers. Legal separation, filed quietly in another county, asset freeze, restraining orders ready if needed, everything in place, everything prepared. By evening, the war room was organized, plans made, strategies finalized, timeline set, 45 days until the merger, 45 days of pretending, of performing, of building evidence, then justice. Grace felt calm, strangely calm. The rage had burned clean, left only clarity, purpose, direction. She knew what she had to do, knew it would be hard, knew it would hurt, knew Preston would fight back. would lie, would try to manipulate her, would use every tool he had. But she was ready, had her own tools now, her own team, her own strength. She'd forgotten she was strong. Preston had made her forget, had convinced her she was weak, needy, too much, not enough. All the lies men tell women to make them small, make them manageable, make them convenient. But Grace wasn't small, wasn't weak, wasn't convenient. She was a woman who'd almost died, who'd looked at death and survived, who'd been betrayed and was still standing, who'd been stolen from and was taking it back. She was powerful, had always been powerful, just forgot for a while. Now she remembered, and God help Preston Hartwell when she showed him what real power looked like. Preston returned that evening. Grace heard his car in the driveway, engine cutting off, door slamming, his key in the lock. She sat on the couch, book in her lap, picture of the docile wife, the compliant woman, the one who'd learned her lesson. She'd practiced this, in front of the mirror, the expression, the body language, soft, apologetic, defeated. It tasted like poison, but she swallowed it down. Preston entered, stopped when he saw her, wary, like approaching a wild animal, not sure if it would attack or run. Grace, Ben. He stayed near the door. About earlier, I know you're stressed, the pregnancy, the seizure, everything. It's a lot. Grace looked up, made her face soft, vulnerable. I overreacted. You're right. I've been so emotional. The hormones, they make me crazy sometimes. Preston relaxed. Visible relief. His shoulders dropped. His jaw unclenched. She'd said the magic words, admitted she was crazy, admitted she was wrong, admitted he was right. Men like Preston needed that, needed women to be wrong, to be emotional, to be less than. It made them feel bigger, stronger, more in control. These pregnancy hormones, Preston said, moving closer, sitting in the armchair. Still not close, never close anymore. They really do a number on you, huh? Can we talk about us? Grace closed her book, set it aside. Really talk? Preston checked his watch. Habit, always checking, always going, always leaving. Sure, of course. Are you happy? Grace asked, made her voice small, uncertain. In this marriage, with me. And are you happy? Long pause. Preston's face did that thing, that calculation thing. She'd seen it 1,000 times. He was deciding which lie to tell, which version of the truth would work, which performance would convince her. I'm tired, Grace. The business is demanding. The merger is consuming everything. But yes, I'm happy. We're having a baby. That's exciting. That's good. You seem distant, like you're not here even when you're here, Beam. I'm stressed. You know how important this merger is, how much is riding on it, but it'll get better after the deal closes, after everything settles. We'll have time. We'll reconnect, I promise. Lies. Every word a lie. Grace heard them clearly now, like a language she'd suddenly learned to speak, the language of manipulation, of gaslighting, of making promises he never intended to keep. Do you still love me? Grace asked. Let her voice break, just slightly. Of course. Said too fast, too automatic, like a reflex. Why are you asking this? I'm scared. I'm 7 months pregnant, and I'm scared you'll leave, that I'm not enough anymore, that you don't want this, don't want us. Preston stood, came to the couch, sat beside her. First time in weeks, he'd voluntarily touched her. He put his arm around her shoulders, pulled her close. His cologne smelled expensive. Cedar and bergamot, and underneath, Vanessa's perfume, always there, always marking him. You're being emotional, Preston said, his voice gentle, patient, condescending. You're pregnant, you're worried, but I'm not going anywhere. We're a family now, we're having a son. I would never leave you. Grace leaned into his touch, let herself be held, felt absolutely nothing. His arms around her, the arms she used to crave, used to need. Now they felt like a trap, like lies made flesh, like everything wrong in the world wrapped around her. How had she ever loved this? How had she ever wanted this? How had she convinced herself this was enough? Preston's phone buzzed. Vanessa's name. He pulled away, checked the screen. Stood up. I need to take this. Work emergency. Of course. Always a work emergency. Always Vanessa. Always something more important than his pregnant wife who almost died. He walked to his study, closed the door. Grace heard his voice. Muffled, low, intimate. Natalie emerged from the kitchen. She'd been there the whole time. Listening. Watching. Ready if Grace needed her. You're better at this than I thought, Natalie whispered. I feel dirty, Grace whispered back. You're not doing anything wrong. You're protecting yourself. Protecting your baby. That's not dirty. That's survival. Grace nodded, but she still felt it. The dirt, the lies, the performance. She'd become what she hated. A liar, a manipulator, someone who wore masks and played games. But Preston had been doing this for 18 months. Had lied and stolen and betrayed. Had made her feel crazy. Had convinced her she was the problem. Had torn her apart systematically, methodically, deliberately. This was self-defense. This was justice. This was taking back what he'd stolen. Her sanity, her truth, her power. Preston came back 20 minutes later. Sorry, the merger team, they needed approval on something. It's okay, I understand. They sat in awkward silence. Grace picked up her book, pretended to read. Preston turned on the television, some financial news show, talking heads discussing markets and mergers and money, the language of his world, the world where everything was a transaction, where people were assets or liabilities, where love was currency. Grace watched him from the corner of her eye, this man she'd married. Who was he? Had she ever really known? She'd known Preston Hartwell. Successful, charming, confident, the man who'd swept her off her feet 4 years ago, who'd proposed after 6 months, who'd promised her the world. But who was the man planning to abandon his pregnant wife? Planning to steal from his best friend? Planning to leave the country with his mistress? Planning to discard his own child like trash? That man was a stranger, a monster, someone wearing Preston's face, Preston's clothes, Preston's life. Or maybe the monster was always there, and the charming man was the mask, the performance, the lie. Grace didn't know anymore, didn't know what was real, what was performance, what she'd imagined, what she'd ignored. She only knew what she knew now, the truth, the evidence, the recordings, the photos, the proof, and that had to be enough, had to be real. Because if she couldn't trust that, she couldn't trust anything. I'm tired, Grace said, standing. I'm going to bed. I'll be up soon. Just want to watch the market recap. Okay, good night. Night. Grace went upstairs, to the bedroom she shared with Preston. The king-size bed, Egyptian cotton sheets, down comforter. They'd picked it all out together, made love in this bed, made plans, made promises. Now it felt contaminated, dirty. She couldn't sleep here, couldn't bear it. She grabbed a pillow, a blanket, went to the nursery, lay down on the floor beside the crib. Hard floor, uncomfortable, but clean, honest. Just her and her son, the way it would be, the way it had to be. Grace closed her eyes, did the thing she'd done 1,000 times, maybe 10,000. Sat perfectly still, arranged her face, breathed through the panic, prepared to smile, prepared to pretend, prepared to perform. She'd been preparing to pretend for so long. Her whole marriage was a dress rehearsal for nothing. How did she become this woman? The woman who performs her own life. She didn't recognize herself anymore. Maybe she never did. Maybe she'd always been performing, always been someone else's version of Grace. The good daughter, the perfect wife, the convenient woman. But who was she really? Under all the performance? Under all the masks? Under all the lies? Grace didn't know, but she was going to find out. After this was over, after the divorce, after the dust settled, she was going to find herself, the real Grace, the one she'd buried, the one she'd lost somewhere along the way. That woman was still in there, waiting, ready, strong. Grace held onto that thought as she drifted to sleep. On the hard floor, In the empty nursery, alone but not lonely, scared but not weak, performing but not defeated, just waiting, gathering strength, preparing for war. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of pretending, of playing the perfect wife, of letting Preston come and go, of smiling, of nodding, of making herself small and convenient and unthreatening. Meanwhile, Ethan continued digging, found more evidence, more women. Vanessa wasn't the only affair, wasn't even the first, just the most recent before Julia. There were others, a paralegal from his lawyer's office, a client, a woman from his gym. Preston collected affairs like other men collected watches, casual, disposable, meaningless. James filed the legal separation, different county, buried in administrative paperwork. Asset freeze activated. Preston hadn't noticed yet. His accounts appeared normal from the outside. But try to move large sums? Denied. Frozen. Locked. Marcus followed Preston everywhere, documented every meeting with Vanessa, every lunch with Julia, every lie, every betrayal, photos, videos, audio recordings, building an evidence file so complete that denial would be impossible. Bill called in more favors, talked to judges, attorneys, court clerks, building a network. When this went to court, Preston wouldn't stand a chance. The verdict was already decided, just needed to play out the formality. Grace lived in performance, woke up, smiled, made breakfast, asked about his day, pretended to care about the merger, nodded at his lies, laughed at his jokes, went to bed alone, slept on the nursery floor, woke up, repeated. It was exhausting, soul-crushing, necessary. Then Thursday afternoon, Grace was folding baby clothes in the nursery, tiny onesies, small socks, everything washed and soft and ready. Her phone rang. Ethan. Gracie, you need to come to Dad's, now. His voice was wrong, tight, urgent, scared almost. Ethan was never scared. What's wrong? Just come, bring Natalie. You're going to need her. Grace drove to her childhood home, hands shaking on the wheel, mind racing. What now? What else? What more could there possibly be? Everyone was already there. Bill, Margaret, Ethan, James, Marcus. All of them looking grim, serious, like someone had died. Sit down, sweetheart. Bill guided her to the couch. Natalie sat beside her, held her hand. Marcus opened his laptop, turned it toward Grace. Last night I followed Preston to the Riverside Hotel, room 213, his usual room. Vanessa met him there at 7:30. Grace nodded. This wasn't news. She knew about Tuesdays, knew about Vanessa. This was old information. They weren't alone, Marcus said. He clicked a button. Photo appeared. Preston, Vanessa, Julia Henderson. All three in the hotel room. Wine glasses. Intimate setting. I don't understand, Grace said. Why is Julia there? That's what I thought at first. Maybe a business discussion. Maybe something innocent. Marcus clicked through more photos. Preston and Julia kissing, Vanessa watching, smiling. It's not innocent. Grace stared. Her brain refused to process. Preston and Julia. Okay, she knew about that affair. But Preston and Vanessa and Julia. All three. Together. It gets worse, Ethan said. He moved to stand beside the laptop. Richard doesn't know about any of this. He thinks his marriage is fine. He's fronting most of the money for the merger, his personal wealth. If he knew Preston was sleeping with his wife, he'd pull funding. The whole deal would collapse. But that's not the worst part, Bill said, his voice heavy, tired. Julia isn't just having an affair with Preston. She and Preston have been planning something. Marcus got audio recordings. Hotel rooms aren't as private as people think. Marcus clicked again, audio file open. Voices, Preston and Julia, clear, unmistakable. Once the merger closes, once Richard's money is in, we take it and run. What about the business? Let it fail. We'll have already transferred the money. Offshore accounts, Switzerland, already set up. Vanessa? She's useful now, keeps Grace distracted. But after, we leave her too. Leave everyone. Start over. Just us. Richard will lose everything. That's his problem. Should have kept better track of his wife. Laughter, cold, cruel, casual. What about the babies? Long pause. Then Julia's voice. We're not keeping them. Too complicated, too much baggage. Fresh start means fresh start. No kids, no exes, no ties to the past. Grace won't do anything. She's too weak, too dependent. She'll raise the kid alone. Fine by me, less child support to pay. More laughter. The recording ended. Grace sat very still. The room spun slowly, like a carousel winding down. Everything blurry, distorted, wrong. We're not keeping them. Her baby, her son. Preston was planning to abandon him, to pretend he didn't exist, to call him baggage, complication, something to discard. Grace, Margaret's voice, distant, underwater. Breathe, you need to breathe. Grace realized she'd stopped breathing. She gasped. Once, twice, 3 times, air filled her lungs. Too much, not enough. She couldn't get enough air. Her baby, her son. How could anyone? How could a father? She put her hands on her belly, felt movement, strong kicks, her son, fighting, living, real, wanted by her, always by her. The money, James said quietly. This is wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, federal crimes. If we can prove intent, Preston faces serious prison time. 20 years, Bill said, maybe more. And we can prove intent. We have recordings, financial records, communications, everything. Grace heard them talking, planning, strategizing, but the words didn't penetrate. Just noise, background static. All she could hear was Preston's voice. Grace won't do anything. She's too weak, too dependent. Weak, dependent, too broken to fight back. Something cracked inside Grace. Not pain, something else. Something breaking open. Like a shell, like a cocoon, like a cage door swinging wide. Grace? Natalie squeezed her hand. Talk to me, say something. Grace stood, walked to the window, looked out at the street, spoke to the glass, to her reflection, to the world. The hardest part is admitting I knew all along. Not about Julia, not about Zurich, not about abandoning the baby, but that he was capable of this. I knew, deep down, in the place I didn't want to look. I knew he was this person. I just didn't want to know that I knew. She turned from the window, looked at her family, her team, her army. He called me weak, called me dependent, called me too broken to fight. Grace's voice was steady, clear, strong. He's wrong, I'm not weak. I was asleep. There's a difference, and I'm awake now. Bill smiled, small smile, proud smile. There's my girl. What do we do? Grace asked. How do we stop him? We tell Richard, Bill said. After the merger closes, after Preston thinks he's won. We show Richard everything, every photo, every recording, every shred of evidence. Richard pulls his money. The deal collapses. Preston's plan implodes. When? The merger closes in 3 weeks. We wait, build more evidence, make sure the case is airtight. Then we strike. And Preston? Goes to prison, loses everything, business, money, freedom, all of it. What about me? Grace asked. What do I get? Everything, James said. Everything he tried to steal, everything he tried to hide. The house, his assets, full custody, child support, spousal support. We take him apart financially, legally, completely. Grace nodded, sat back down. Let Natalie hold her. Let the information settle. Let the rage burn clean and bright and clarifying. Preston thought she was weak, thought she would accept anything, tolerate anything, forgive anything. He thought wrong. Grace wasn't weak, wasn't broken, wasn't defeated. She was furious, focused, ready. And Preston Hartwell was about to learn what happened when you underestimated the wrong woman, when you pushed too far, when you stole too much, when you betrayed the one person who'd loved you unconditionally. He was about to learn that hell hath no fury like a woman who'd been called weak when she was actually gathering strength. And that lesson would cost him everything. Grace sat in her childhood bedroom. The posters were long gone, the teenage decorations replaced with neutral paint and grown-up furniture. But it still felt like her room, the room where she'd studied for exams, where she'd cried over breakups, where she'd dreamed about her future. That future had seemed so bright, so full of possibility. College, career, love, marriage, children. The whole American dream laid out like a path, clear, obvious, achievable. She'd followed that path, done everything right. Good grades, good job, good husband, good wife, good mother-to-be, and somehow ended up here, 32 years old, 7 months pregnant, hiding in her childhood bedroom from her husband who was planning to abandon her. How did that happen? Where did the path diverge? When did the dream turn into a nightmare? Knock at the door. Margaret entered. Didn't ask permission. Mother prerogative. She sat on the edge of the bed, Grace's old bed, full size, floral comforter. Not the same one from Grace's teenage years, but close enough. They sat in silence. Just sat. Sometimes mothers knew when words weren't needed, when presence was enough. I don't know who I am anymore, Grace said finally. I looked at those photos, listened to that audio, and I felt nothing. Shouldn't I feel something? Shouldn't I be devastated? Shouldn't I be falling apart? You feel numb because rage is exhausting, Margaret said. And you've been enraged for months. You just couldn't admit it. I thought if I was good enough, pretty enough, understanding enough. Grace laughed, bitter sound. I thought I could love him into loving me, like love was a currency, like I could pay enough, be enough, do enough, and he'd finally see me, finally choose me. You can't, Margaret said it plain. No sugarcoating, no false comfort. Some people aren't capable of love. They're capable of performance, of calculation, of manipulation, but not love, not real love, not the kind that gives without taking, the kind that builds without destroying. How do I tell Vanessa? Grace asked. She thinks he loves her. She thinks she won. She thinks after he leaves me, they'll be together. She has no idea. You don't, Bill said from the doorway. How long had he been standing there? She made her choices. She knew he was married, knew you were pregnant, knew he was lying to you. She doesn't deserve your kindness, doesn't deserve your warning. Let her learn the hard way. But Julia, Grace said, Richard is a good man. He deserves to know. He does, Bill agreed. And he will, when the time is right. When is that? Grace asked. James appeared behind Bill. The whole family gathering. United front. Tomorrow. The merger closes tomorrow. We let it close. Let Preston think he won. Let him believe his plan is working. Then we tell Richard everything. With evidence, with proof. Richard pulls his money. The deal collapses. Preston loses everything. What about me? Grace asked. What do I get out of all this? Everything he stole from you, Bill said. His voice was steel, cold steel, unyielding steel. Everything he took, everything he planned to take, we get it back, plus interest, plus damages, plus custody of your son, plus the satisfaction of watching him realize he underestimated the wrong woman. Grace stood, walked to the mirror, same mirror from her teenage years. She checked her makeup here before dances, before dates, before the prom where she'd met her first boyfriend, before college, before everything. She looked at her reflection now, 32 years old, 7 months pregnant, dark circles under her eyes, hair that needed washing, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater, not pretty, not put together, not perfect, but not broken either. She thought she was broken, for weeks, maybe months, thought Preston had shattered something irreparable, thought she'd never be whole again. But broken things don't plan, don't strategize, don't stand up. She wasn't broken. She was being forged, in fire, in pain, in truth. She was becoming something harder than he ever was, something sharper, something more dangerous. He'd taught her to be this, by trying to destroy her, by pushing her to breaking point, by forcing her to find strength she didn't know she had. He'd created his own enemy, his own downfall, his own judgment, and tomorrow he would learn what he'd created. "I'm ready," Grace said, turning from the mirror, looking at her family, her team, her army. "Let's end this." They discussed logistics, timing, who would tell Richard, how much to show, what to say, legal implications, criminal charges, civil damages, everything that would happen, everything that needed to happen, everything that would unfold like dominoes, one falling into the next, until nothing was left standing. Grace listened, asked questions, absorbed information. She'd become fluent in this language. Legal language, strategy language, justice language. 2 weeks ago, she'd been a pregnant housewife, dependent, naive, trusting. Now she was something else, someone who understood that kindness without strength was weakness, that love without respect was abuse, that trust without honesty was foolishness. She'd learned. God, how she'd learned. The lessons had cost her marriage, cost her faith in people, cost her innocence, cost her the future she'd imagined. But they'd given her something too, given her clarity, given her strength, given her self-respect, given her the ability to look in the mirror and recognize the woman looking back. That was worth something, worth everything maybe. Grace touched her belly. The baby was awake, moving. Soon, so soon he'd be here, and she'd be ready. Not the woman she'd been, not Preston's wife, not the performance, but herself, her real self, the one she'd buried, the one she'd lost, the one she was becoming. "Mom," Grace said, "thank you." "For what?" "For not saying I told you so, for not making me feel stupid, for just being here." Margaret stood, hugged her daughter, tight hug, mother hug, safe hug. "You're not stupid, you're human. You trusted someone you loved. That's not stupid, that's brave. He betrayed that trust, that's on him, not you, never you." Grace let herself be held, let herself feel small for a moment. Just a moment, because tomorrow she'd need to be big, strong, unbreakable. But tonight in her childhood bedroom, in her mother's arms, she could be small, could be scared, could be the girl who dreamed of a different future. Tomorrow that girl would be gone forever. Tomorrow she'd become the woman she was meant to be. But tonight, one last night, she could grieve, could mourn, could say goodbye to the life she'd wanted, the future she'd imagined, the love she'd believed in. Tomorrow was war, but tonight was goodbye. Grace closed her eyes, breathed deep, let the tears come. Just a few, just enough. Then she wiped them away, straightened her spine, set her jaw. Tomorrow justice, tomorrow truth, tomorrow consequences. Tomorrow Preston Hartwell would learn that actions have prices, that lies have costs, that betrayal comes with bills that must be paid. And Grace Morrison, not Hartwell, never Hartwell again, would collect every penny owed, with interest. Friday morning, merger closing day. Preston left the house at 6 a.m., excited, triumphant. He actually kissed Grace's forehead on his way out, touched her belly, said, "This is it, honey. Everything changes today. Our future starts today." He had no idea how right he was. Grace dressed carefully. Black maternity dress. Professional. Strong. Pearl earrings her grandmother had given her. Small armor. She looked in the mirror. Last time as Preston's wife. Next time as herself. She drove downtown. The financial district. Glass towers reaching toward gray sky. Preston's office building. 23 floors. His company logo glittering on the facade. Hartwell Tech Solutions. Soon to be someone else's. Soon to be nothing. Security tried to stop her at the lobby. "Mrs. Hartwell, do you have an appointment?" "I'm here for the merger closing. My husband is expecting me." Lie, but effective lie. Security let her through. Still the CEO's wife. Still had access, still had power. For now, for a few more minutes, 23rd floor, Conference room, double doors, oak, expensive. Through the glass she could see them. Preston, Richard Thornton, lawyers in suits, bankers in ties, documents spread across mahogany table, pens ready, champagne on ice, celebration prepared. Grace pushed open the doors, walked in, every head turned. Grace? Preston stood, shocked, angry, trying to hide both. What are you doing here? Witnessing history, Grace said. She sat in an empty chair, end of the table. Don't mind me. Preston's jaw clenched. That muscle, the one that twitched when he was furious. But he couldn't make a scene. Not here. Not now. Not in front of Richard. In front of the bankers. In front of everyone who mattered. He proceeded. Signed documents. Page after page. Richard signed. Matching signatures. Lawyers signed. Bankers witnessed. Handshakes all around. Smiles. Congratulations. Success. The merger was complete. Preston's company now belonged to a larger corporation. Richard's money now committed. Millions of dollars. Transferred. Locked in. Done. Richard Thornton smiled. Raised a glass of champagne. To new beginnings. To success. To partnership. About that, Bill Morrison pushed open the conference room doors. Behind him, Ethan, James Rourke, Marcus Sullivan. Behind them, 3 police officers in uniform. Preston's face drained of color. Actually drained. White, gray, like his blood had stopped flowing. What is this? Preston's voice shook, just slightly. Justice, Bill said. He nodded to Marcus. Marcus moved around the table. Distributed folders, thick folders, to Richard, to Preston's lawyers, to the bankers, to everyone. Inside you'll find evidence of fraud, adultery, plans to embezzle merger funds, plans to flee the country with stolen assets, plans to defraud Richard Thornton specifically. Everything is documented, photographed, recorded, proven. Richard opened his folder, face darkening as he read. Page after page, photos of his wife Julia and Preston, together, intimate, betraying him, transcripts of their conversations, the plan to take his money, run to Switzerland, leave him with nothing. You son of a bitch, Richard's voice shook. Not with fear, with rage, pure rage. You slept with my wife while we were friends, while our wives were pregnant, while I was putting my money into your failing company. While you were planning to rob me. Richard, I can explain, Preston started. Explain what? Explain how you're a liar, a thief, a fraud? Richard threw the folder down. Photos scattered, his wife's face, Preston's face, both of them smiling, happy, betraying him. James Rourke stepped forward, briefcase in hand, lawyer mode. Mr. Thornton, I represent Grace Hartwell. As of this morning, we're freezing all merger funds pending investigation. Those funds were obtained through fraudulent misrepresentation. Through what? Through criminal activity. The merger is void. The money returns to you, pending legal proceedings. You can't. Preston turned to his lawyers, his head attorney, the man he'd paid thousands of dollars. Preston's lawyer opened the folder. Read. Face went neutral. Professional mask. He closed the folder, stood. I'm withdrawing representation. Effective immediately. Find other counsel, Preston. We're done. He walked out. Just walked out. Left Preston standing there, alone, exposed, vulnerable. The police officer stepped forward, hand on his belt, on his handcuffs. Preston Hartwell, we have a warrant for your arrest. Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit fraud. Conspiracy to defraud. You have the right to remain silent. This is insane. Preston looked around wildly, looking for allies, for friends, for anyone. Saw only cold faces, hard faces, judging faces. This is a setup. Grace, tell them. Tell them you're doing this because you're angry, because you're emotional, because you're hormonal. Grace stood slowly, carefully, her pregnant belly leading. She walked to Preston, looked him in the eye, really looked. Last time, final time. You were with Vanessa when I had the seizure, she said, her voice calm, clear, certain. When I almost died, when our baby almost died. You chose her over us, over your family, over your own child. You chose your mistress over your wife's life. Grace, please. Preston reached for her. She stepped back, out of reach, away from him, away from his lies, away from his touch that contaminated everything. No, the word was final. I deserve to be chosen. I always deserved that, especially then, especially when I was vulnerable, when I needed you, when our son needed you. You taught me something, Preston. You taught me what I deserve by showing me what I don't. So thank you. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Thank you for helping me understand I deserve better. Grace turned to the room, to Richard, to the lawyers, to everyone watching, everyone bearing witness. He convinced me I was the problem, she said, that I was too needy, too emotional. Too much, not enough. Everything women hear when they ask to be treated with basic decency. I believed him. I made myself smaller, quieter, more convenient, more. I apologize for existing, for wanting, for needing, but I'm not the problem. I never was. He is. His lies are. His betrayal is. And I'm done apologizing for asking to be loved. The police officer put handcuffs on Preston's wrists. Click, click, metal closing, locked, done. Preston was led away, still protesting, still denying, still lying, even now, even caught, even finished, still performing, still manipulating, still trying to control the narrative. But no one was listening anymore. No one believed him. No one cared. He was done. Over. Finished. Richard Thornton stood, walked to Grace, extended his hand. I'm sorry for not seeing, for not protecting you, for letting this happen in my company, under my watch, with my money. You didn't know, Grace said. He fooled us both, fooled everyone. That's what people like Preston do. They perform, they manipulate, they make us think we're crazy for suspecting, for questioning, for knowing what we know. Julia, Richard said, my wife. She's pregnant too. 6 months. Is it his? Grace didn't know, wanted to lie, to protect him, but he deserved truth. Everyone deserved truth. I don't know, but you can find out. DNA test. After the baby is born, or maybe before. I don't know how that works. Richard nodded, processed, absorbed. His whole world had just collapsed. Marriage, business partnership, trust, friendship, everything built on lies, on sand, on nothing. Thank you, Richard said, for stopping this, for showing me, for being brave enough to fight back. I wasn't brave, Grace said. I was desperate. There's a difference. No, there's not. Grace sat down, suddenly exhausted, soul-deep tired. The kind of tired that comes from months of stress, of fighting, of surviving. It was done. Over. Finished. Preston was arrested. The merger was voided. The plan was exposed. Justice was served. She should feel triumphant, victorious, satisfied. She just felt empty, hollow, like someone had scooped out her insides and left only the shell. Bill sat beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. You did good, sweetheart. You did so good. I don't feel good. I feel tired. That's normal. Justice is exhausting. Truth is exhausting. Standing up for yourself is exhausting. Let yourself be tired. Grace leaned into her father. Let him hold her, anchor her, keep her upright when everything wanted to collapse. What happens now, she asked. Now you rest. Now you prepare for your son. Now you build a life that's yours, not his, not anyone's. Yours. Grace nodded, stood, walked to the window, 23 floors up. The city spread below, thousands of people, thousands of lives, each one a story, each one with triumphs and failures and betrayals and victories. She was just one story, one woman, one betrayal, one victory, but it was hers, her story, her victory, her future. And that was everything 3 months later. Grace Morrison. Not Hartwell, Never Hartwell again. Morrison, her maiden name, her real name. The name she should have kept all along. She stood in her apartment, new apartment, smaller than the colonial house. One bedroom, small kitchen, tiny nursery, but it was hers. Every inch, every corner, every choice. Pale gray walls, plants everywhere. Books on shelves, her books, her choices, her taste. No one else's. The nursery was perfect, simple, clean, white crib, soft rug, rocking chair. The expensive one she'd kept, the one Preston had complained about. $800 for a chair? Really? Yes, really. Because she would sit here, rock her son, sing to him, love him, keep him safe. William Morrison, named after her father, called Liam, 2 weeks old, healthy, beautiful, 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, dark curls, her father's eyes, nothing of Preston in him, all Morrison, all hers. Liam slept in his bassinet, beside the couch. Grace watched him breathe, in, out, in, out. The rhythm of new life, the rhythm of hope, the rhythm of everything good in the world. Natalie brought coffee, decaf. Grace was breastfeeding. You look good, Mama. I feel good, Grace meant it. Better than I have in years, maybe ever. That's what happens when you stop pretending, when you stop performing, when you stop being someone you're not. Is it always this freeing, or does the fear come back? Both, Natalie said honestly. Freedom comes with fear, but it's different fear, not the fear of being yourself. Fear of building something new. That's better fear, productive fear, fear that moves you forward instead of holding you back. Grace sipped her coffee, thought about the last 3 months. The legal aftermath had been spectacular. Preston's arrest made regional news. Local CEO arrested for fraud. Tech community shocked. Articles, interviews, social media discussions. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone claimed they'd known, claimed they'd suspected, claimed they'd never trusted him. Liars. All of them liars. They'd loved Preston, praised him, invested with him, did business with him. Until he was arrested. Then they'd all known all along. Richard Thornton pulled all funding. The merger collapsed spectacularly. Preston's company filed bankruptcy. Creditors came calling, investors sued. Employees lost jobs. Grace felt bad about the employees. They didn't deserve to suffer. They were innocent. But there was no other way. No way to stop Preston without consequences, without collateral damage. Sometimes justice hurt the innocent. That was the tragedy of it. But letting Preston continue would have hurt more people. Grace, Liam, Richard, Julia's baby, Amanda Fisher, Vanessa, everyone in Preston's path. Vanessa Cole quit, disappeared. Rumor said she moved to California, changed her name, started over. Grace didn't care, didn't think about her, didn't have the energy to spare. Julia Henderson, Richard's wife. Their situation was complicated. They'd separated. Julia gave birth to a baby girl. DNA test confirmed Preston was the father. Julia faced her own legal troubles. Conspiracy charges. She'd known about the plan, participated, recorded conversations proved it. Grace felt sorry for Julia sometimes. Then remembered. Julia knew Grace was pregnant, knew Preston was married, knew Richard was being betrayed. Chose it anyway, chose herself, chose the fantasy, chose wrong. Sympathy had limits, forgiveness had boundaries. Grace had learned that, learned when to be kind and when to protect herself, learned that compassion without wisdom was foolishness. Preston's trial was pending. Multiple charges, wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to defraud. The prosecutor was going for maximum sentences, 10 to 15 years, maybe more. His lawyers were arguing for mercy, claiming Preston was under stress, claiming he'd made mistakes, claiming he deserved another chance. They wouldn't get it. Not from Bill Morrison's friends on the bench, not from judges who'd seen his evidence, his recordings, his pattern of behavior spanning years. Preston Hartwell was going to prison. That was inevitable. The only question was how long. Grace didn't attend the hearings, didn't want to see him, didn't need to. She'd given her deposition, testified before the grand jury. That was enough, more than enough. Now she just wanted to move forward, build her life, raise her son, exist without him, without his shadow, without his laws contaminating everything. The divorce was finalized. Grace got the house, sold it immediately. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Took the money, invested, set up a trust for Liam, financial security, college fund, future. Her grandmother's money was recovered. Preston's assets were seized. The court awarded Grace 70% of everything. Preston kept 30. That 30 would go to paying his lawyers, his debts, his consequences. Child support was guaranteed, court-ordered, calculated on Preston's actual income, not the reduced income his lawyers tried to claim. $1,500 a month, every month, even from prison. His parents would probably pay it. Claudia had money, would want to support her grandson even if her son was a criminal. Grace didn't need Preston's money, didn't want it, but she'd take it. For Liam, for principal. Preston had stolen from her. This was restitution, repayment, justice. She'd enrolled in online classes, business management, learning about money, about investing, about financial independence. She'd been dependent on Preston. That would never happen again. Never depend on someone who didn't deserve trust. She'd started a blog, After the Fall, writing her story, anonymous at first, then not. Didn't use her real name, but didn't hide either. Wrote about betrayal, about gaslighting, about survival, about rebuilding. Thousands of women read it, commented, shared their own stories. Grace realized something. She wasn't alone. None of them were alone. Millions of women, all living versions of her story, all betrayed, all gaslit, all convinced they were crazy when they knew the truth. The blog became a community, a support system, women helping women, sharing resources, offering advice, building each other up. Grace hosted a support group, Thursday nights, her apartment, sometimes 6 women, sometimes 15. They talked, cried, laughed, shared, survived together. Being needed felt good. Helping felt good. Turning her pain into purpose felt good. Felt healing. Felt like redemption. The doorbell rang. Grace opened it. Amanda Fisher, the woman from Preston's company. The harassment case, the settlement, the NDA. "I hope this is okay," Amanda said, nervous, uncertain. "I saw the news, the trial. I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "For speaking up, for fighting. After my case, I felt so alone, like no one believed me, like I was the problem. But you proved it wasn't just me, that he's a predator, that he hurts women, multiple women. The prosecutor contacted me. They're adding my case to his charges. Because of you, I get justice too." Grace hugged her, this stranger who wasn't a stranger, this woman who knew, who understood, who'd survived the same man, same lies, same manipulation. "I'm glad," Grace said. "I'm glad you get justice. You deserved it. You always deserved it." After Amanda left, Grace sat in the rocking chair, held Liam, rocked slowly, back and forth, back and forth. The motion soothing, maternal, ancient. Her parents visited daily. Bill held his grandson like he was made of light, made of hope, made of everything good. Margaret taught Grace mother tricks, how to swaddle, how to soothe, how to survive on no sleep. Ethan dropped by constantly, brought food, assembled furniture, played uncle. Taught Liam about journalism. Liam was 2 weeks old, didn't understand. Ethan didn't care. Talked to him anyway. Building relationship, building bond, building family. "Your father saved me," Grace told Liam. He blinked up at her, dark eyes, serious. "Your grandfather. He reminded me I'm worth saving, that I deserve people who choose me, who protect me, who love me without conditions, without performance, without lies." Liam made a small sound, not quite a cry, not quite a coo, just a sound, baby sound, perfect sound. Grace's phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. She opened it. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you. Vanessa. Probably. Maybe Julia. Maybe Preston from a friend's phone. Didn't matter. Grace deleted it. Didn't respond. Didn't need to. Some people deserved answers, deserved explanations, deserved closure. Some didn't. Vanessa made her choices. Julia made hers. Preston made his. Those choices had consequences. Grace wasn't responsible for their guilt, their regret, their eventual realization that they'd destroyed something. Another text. This one from Bill. Proud of you, sweetheart. So proud. Grace smiled, texted back, love you, Dad. Thank you for everything, for reminding me who I am, for helping me become who I needed to be. Richard Thornton called sometimes. They'd become unlikely friends, both betrayed by people they trusted. Both parents now, both rebuilding. How's Liam? Richard asked. Perfect. Growing too fast. How's Emma? Emma, Richard's daughter, Julia's daughter, Preston's daughter. Complicated family tree, painful origins, but innocent child, not responsible for her parents' sins. Growing too fast too, Richard said. Listen, I'm grateful, in a weird way. Julia leaving, Preston's arrest, it freed me from a lie I was living, from pretending, from performing something I didn't believe in anymore. Me too, Grace said. She looked at Liam, at her small apartment, at the life she'd built from rubble. I thought I wanted the house, the marriage, the perfect family, the performance, but that was never real. This, right here, this is real, this is mine, this is honest. Do you think we'll ever trust again? Richard asked. Ever let someone in? Ever risk love after this? I don't know, maybe not. But right now I trust myself. That's enough. That's everything. They talked a while longer, then hung up. Grace stood, walked to the window. Sunset painted the sky. Orange and purple and pink, beautiful. The city settling into evening, lights coming on, people going home, or leaving home, or somewhere in between. She thought about the woman she'd been. 4 months ago, 7 months ago, 4 years ago, the woman who made herself small, who apologized for existing, who believed love meant suffering. That woman was gone. Grace had mourned her, said goodbye, let her go. This woman, this Grace, she was different. Harder in good ways, softer in better ways. Knew her worth, knew her strength, knew she could survive anything because she already had. She'd survived betrayal, survived abandonment, survived being told she was crazy when she knew the truth, survived having her reality denied, her experience questioned, her sanity challenged. She'd survived all of it, came out stronger, clearer, more herself than she'd ever been. Night fell, Liam stirred, woke, hungry cry, small cry. Grace lifted him, settled into the rocking chair, fed him, watched his little face. Complete trust, complete dependence, complete love. She would never betray that, would never make him doubt himself, would never gaslight him, would never make him small, would teach him to be strong, to be honest, to demand respect, to give respect, to love without losing himself. She would teach him that love wasn't performance, wasn't convenience, wasn't transaction. Love was choice, daily choice, to show up, to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be worthy of trust. Preston had taught her what love wasn't. She would teach Liam what love was. That was her mission now, her purpose, her redemption. Grace touched Liam's soft hair, kissed his forehead, whispered promises, promises she would keep, promises Preston never kept, promises that meant something. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Whoever it was could wait. This moment, this perfect moment, nothing could interrupt this. Grace rocked her son, in the apartment she'd chosen, in the life she'd built, in the freedom she'd earned, in the peace she'd fought for. She'd survived the fall, survived the betrayal, survived the fire, came through scarred but whole, damaged but functional, changed but better. Some people said what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Grace wasn't sure about that. What doesn't kill you just means you survived. The strength comes from what you do after, how you rebuild, how you grow, how you become. Grace was becoming, every day, becoming more herself, more honest, more real, more the woman she was supposed to be all along. The woman who didn't pretend, didn't perform, didn't make herself small, didn't apologize for existing, didn't accept less than she deserved. That woman was powerful, was dangerous, was free. And that freedom, terrible freedom, beautiful freedom, hard-won freedom, was worth everything she'd lost, everything she'd survived, everything she'd endured. Grace closed her eyes, breathed deep, felt her son in her arms, her son, her family, her future. She whispered to him, to herself, to the universe, "We're going to be okay, better than okay. We're going to be happy, really, truly happy, not performance happy, not pretend happy, real happy, the kind that comes from being yourself, from building a life that's honest, from loving people who deserve it and being loved by people who know how. And that's the best revenge. Not hurting him, not destroying him, but healing us, building us, being happy without him, being a better without him, being free." Liam sighed, content, fed, safe, loved, everything a child should be. Grace rocked, back and forth, back and forth. The motion eternal, maternal, healing. She thought about Preston, in jail, awaiting trial, awaiting sentence, awaiting consequences. Did he understand yet? Did he realize? Did he see what he'd lost, what he'd thrown away, what he'd destroyed? Probably not. Men like Preston rarely did. They blamed others, blamed circumstances, blamed everyone but themselves. That was their tragedy, their prison, never learning, never growing, never becoming. Grace had learned, had grown, had become. That was her victory, not Preston's arrest, not his losses, but her growth, her strength, her transformation. She'd been a caterpillar, comfortable, safe, crawling along. Then Preston had forced her into a cocoon. Dark, painful, suffocating. She'd thought it was death, thought it was ending, thought she was being destroyed. But she was being transformed, was dissolving, was rebuilding, was becoming something new, something with wings, something that could fly. Grace opened her eyes, looked at her reflection in the dark window, holding her son, in her home, living her truth. She smiled, real smile, not performance, not pretense, just real. She'd survived, more than survived. She'd prevailed, had won, not the battle, the war for herself, for her soul, for her truth, and that victory, that quiet, private, powerful victory, was everything. Grace Morrison, 32 years old, single mother, survivor, warrior, woman. She rocked her son in the darkness, in the peace, in the truth, and for the first time in years, maybe ever, she felt complete, felt whole, felt like herself. The journey wasn't over. Healing took time. Trust took time. Building a new life took time. But she had time, had patience, had herself in that. That was enough, more than enough, everything. Grace closed her eyes, listened to her son breathe, felt the apartment settle around her, her space, her home, her sanctuary. Tomorrow would come, with its challenges, its fears, its uncertainties. But tonight she was exactly where she needed to be. Safe, strong, surviving, thriving, free. The woman she was supposed to be all along. Grace Morrison rebuilt her life, piece by piece, day by day. She took everything Preston tried to steal and made it her own. She's raising her son, running her business, helping other women who've been where she was. Women who were told they were crazy, told they were dramatic, told they were too much. She's living proof that survival isn't just about getting through the darkness. It's about becoming the light on the other side. And Preston, he's exactly where he belongs. Learning that actions have consequences, that lies have prices, that betrayal comes with a bill that must be paid. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt gaslit or betrayed or told you were imagining things when you knew the truth, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Let me know this story mattered. Drop a comment. Tell me your thoughts. Share your own story if you're brave enough. This community is built on women supporting women. On truth, on solidarity. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's doubting themselves. Someone who's being told they're crazy. Someone who needs to know they're not alone. And subscribe to this channel because every week I bring you stories like this. Stories of women who refused to stay silent, who fought back, who won. Stories that remind us we're stronger than we know. Your story matters. Your voice matters. You matter. And if you're going through something similar right now, remember what Grace learned. You're not crazy. You know what you know. And knowing it means you can't unknow it anymore. That's power. Terrible, beautiful, liberating power. Use it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next story. Stay strong out there.